to you today from the Southern Legend Outdoors Studio, the Be a Legend podcast, brought to you from SouthernLegendOutdoors.com. And now your hosts, Kevin Bearfield, Carrie Nelson, Ken Butler, and Mark Newell. Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. It's your time now. Be a legend.
Welcome to another episode of the Be a Legend podcast, brought to you from Southern Legend Outdoors. In this episode, Brother Kerry travels to the great state of Alabama to meet with good friend, Brother Jody Harrison, also known as Preacherman with Preacherman Turkey Calls. Brother Kerry and Brother Jody will discuss a variety of topics that we know you will certainly enjoy in this remote episode of the Be a Legend podcast.
All right. Well, we'd like to say good morning to you. We're here in the great state of Alabama and Southern Legend Outdoors. On the road again, we've got one of our great friends in the ministry, Brother Jody Harrison, Asheboro, North Carolina, Bethel Baptist Church. A lot of people know Brother Jody for a lot of reasons. He's multi-gifted man of God, but my greatest relationship with him is he's my friend, great preacher, Bible preacher, and but he loves outdoors. And at Southern Legend Outdoors, what we try to do is bring together our outdoor fellowship and try to bring to you some people that maybe you would never meet if it wasn't for this podcast. And so we've got Brother Jody Harrison with us this morning. Good morning, Brother Jody.
Good morning, Brother Kerry.
We are honored to have Brother Jody with us. We're actually in Alabama at Sunrise Baptist Church Bible Conference, and we're here in the motel, and I've got to leave out and head across to show Richard's video at Vina High School this morning, and Brother Jody will be here at the conference, and then they'll head back to North Carolina tomorrow. So we're going to take a few minutes and talk a little bit about North Carolina hunting. Brother Jody, most people, when you hear his name, are automatically going to say, is this Preacherman Turkey Calls? And yes, it is. Matter of fact, I'm sitting here in the hotel room looking at turkey calls. Brother Jody's playing one. I always pick at my son Eli about playing them. I say, you playing that turkey call too loud. But he's working a turkey call as we talk. And I'm looking across the room, and there's several over in his bag. And if I can get him to turn his head during the podcast, I'm going to try to take me a few of them home. Brother Jody, one thing I want to do is talk to you about hunting in North Carolina. You know, a lot of times when you are from a certain state and you don't hunt other states, you know nothing about seasons. You know nothing about, do you have deer? Do you have big deer? This is deer season. We're going to have Brother Jody come back on during turkey season. He'll be at our home turkey hunting late mid-spring, and we're going to do a podcast with Brother Jody about turkey hunting. We're going to talk some deer hunting to start with. Tell us about North Carolina, the area that you live in. Tell us about the deer population there. Is there a lot of deer? Do you have some... what's a big deer for y'all, in North Carolina?
I live in the central part of the state, what's known as the URA mountain chain. It's really not known, or hasn't been known, for big whitetail in the past. We have no turkeys. There's no turkeys in the whole state at all, period.
Brother Jody has just lied. He's trying to keep y'all from coming turkey hunting.
And the deer, however, are, I think, the size are getting bigger. I think there's a lot of guys that are letting the smaller bucks walk, and that doesn't matter to me whether a man kills a big buck or a little buck or a doe. To each their own. When you go and hunt, a trophy is not defined by the size of the rack. It's defined by the excitement and the thrill of the hunt. And so, but our deer this year, last year we didn't have any acorns. And the deer movement was mainly around fields and food plots that were established. So if you were hunting mainly trails like I do, and cutovers, it was kind of hard. This year we've had a pretty good acorn crop. And the deer activity is great. And we've got some larger deer on camera than we've been getting. Now last year a lot of guys were saying that they wouldn't be, that all the bigger deer would be shot and killed because deer were coming to corn so frequent. And they said, well, they're going to kill all the big deer. Well, it's right the opposite. A lot of deer didn't get killed last year, big deer. So this year, I know I shared with Brother Mark Newell a picture of a buck that is very rare in my area. He's pushing the 150s hard, maybe even better, and that's in my area. So the deer activity is good. With coyotes is beginning to be a problem with everybody, I think. But I think we're looking forward to a great rut. It's getting ready to start at my place.
Well, that was a question I was going to ask you. Is tell us about the rut when it kicks in for y'all. It's different in each state, but when is the rut season normally for the state of North Carolina, and then for your area? Explain to our listeners exactly what, when you think of Asheboro. I immediately, when I first met you and heard of Asheboro, I thought of Asheville because I went to Knoxville, to Gatlinburg so much, and I've seen the signs.
Right.
So when you said, "Oh no, it's Asheboro," and then I got to look and I realized, hey, I'm 10 hours from your place,
right,
instead of 7 or 8. Right. So tell us about your area on that rut and when it's going to kick in.
That's why I also say the URA mountain chain, because when people say, when I say Asheboro, that sometimes they think Asheville. Well, that's the Blue Ridge Mountains or the Appalachians. So when I say Asheboro, then I mention the URA mountain chain. Then that automatically separates me from the western part of the state, which I'm still kind of not really in the foothills, but kind of have our own mountains there. But the rut generally comes in, it varies. The first full moon in November is really good. Our black powder comes in this Saturday, October 29th, I think it is.
Do y'all have an archery season? I mean, have y'all started a bow season like most states?
Bow season comes in early September, and it's the 27th, I think, is this Saturday, black powder. And it'll stay in, bow season stays in until black powder. And then black powder will come in on the 27th. We get 2 weeks of that. Up until a couple of years ago, we only got 1 week, but now we get 2 weeks of black powder. Then we go into rifle. And that's the week before Thanksgiving. And then rifle will run till the first of the year. And that's when our season goes out. So our rut is going to be pretty much from this coming weekend. You're going to get about 2 or 3 weeks of it. And I think a does and estrus, every 28 days or something like that. And our deer are in rut now. What's so funny about it is I've hunted in Alabama, South Alabama, or probably y'all too. Rut comes in late January. And that's weird for us, just like probably weird for y'all to think, for us to be getting ready to hit the rut. There's a lot of paws on the ground now. Some's been on the ground for a good while. It's been a hot summer, and it's pushed, I think, the rut up to where it needs to be. It's starting to cool down now. Acorns have failed. We've had some frost. I think they've soured. Deer are going to be on the move. They got a good acorn crop, but they didn't last long because we had a heavy dew and some pretty cold temperatures already. So I look forward to a lot of deer activity when I get home and in the woods this year. I think in North Carolina, central North Carolina, I think it's going to be a great year for big bucks. I really do. And deer in general.
Well, we, in the state of Mississippi, ours varies too. It's the weather. It's, everything that comes into pushing the rut into full rut. Mm-hmm. We had deer chasing late January last year, so I know it can be different, but this is early, for somebody from Mississippi to hear talking about the rut in late October. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting to know. What about population of deer where you're at? Are y'all, do you have multitudes of deer? Do you have a lot of does shot during the year? Do you have certain days that y'all Some states used to have doe day. Mississippi did. Then they, some states have different rules on inches of their buck and different things. In your area, one thing we love to do at Southern Legend Outdoors is we love to take kids. Of course, the ministry God's gave me with By His Grace Outdoors just ties right into Southern Legend Outdoors. So do y'all have a youth season, like Youth Week? So that comes in, like in the state of Mississippi, it's going to come in, the gun season is going to come in a couple weeks before adult gun season as far as rifle. And do y'all have youth season? And then is there any programs in your area? We love at Southern Legend Outdoors to talk about a father-son relationship, it's being a legend, it's passing it down.
Right.
All right. And Brother Jody is the proud grandfather of his first grandbaby, and it is a grandson. Right. And so one of the funny things about Brother Jody, he's already bought him guns, he's got his camo, he's got his boots, turkey calls, deer, everything. So tell us a little bit about that aspect of where you live, and what do you see about passing this tradition of deer hunting on? What goes on? Is it the same way? And I'm sure it is. I'm sure in your heart you want to pass this on to your brother. Jody raised 2 girls, so when he got this grandson, he's in a new arena, and he is enjoying every minute of it. But tell us about the youth activity in y'all's area.
During bow season, a couple weeks ago, we had a youth Saturday, and that was where you could take rifles. And I'm not exactly sure on the date of that, where they had a youth day. That's about all that I'm aware of. Now, as far as the bag limits and things like that, we do have doe days, but we have what is called an antlerless deer tag and then a antlered deer. That changes or seems to change periodically. I know in the past that we've been able to go back and even purchase more doe tags. Our doe to buck ratio seems to be out of balance, like it is probably in a lot of areas. But the youth, the heritage, the legend, the lineage of deer hunting, we don't have anything in our area that is per se focused on youth. That's why for years, and like when I met you, Brother Kerry, several years ago, and By His Grace Outdoors, that has been a passion of mine for the last 10 or 12 years as a pastor there in the country, and having all the hunters that we have. I've wanted to find, 500 to 600 acres of land in my area that we could lease as a church family and use as a ministry, and do things like that. And that's why I'm so, proud of what you are doing, because I don't see publicly father, son. I know there's fathers and sons hunting together, but as far as a community-wide effort, I think that's something that some of the local churches could do that have that burden or that desire. And the Bible even says that we're to minister as the abilities of God that He gives us. So some people say, well, I'm a deer hunter, I can't minister. Oh, yes, you can. You can minister deer hunting, turkey hunting, fishing, walking, hiking, and as a church has those desires, minister in that way. Right. So I see you have used that as a ministry to where missionaries, evangelists, preachers, kids, those disabled can come in and you can minister to them by taking them hunting, showing love and compassion, genuine Christianity. And whether you're sowing a food plot or putting gas in a side-by-side or you're building a deer stand, you're doing it for the glory of God, because God's going to use it. So for kids too, as well, in my area, I would love to see something started up, and it may be my church that does that for the youth when it comes to the outdoors. Because as a kid, when I was a kid, I think back of a lot of the older men that took me under their wing. Back when I was a kid, we didn't have turkey. We had very few deer. And it wasn't coon hunting was about it. That and fox hunting. That's what I was raised up doing. My grandpa, Dolan Latham. And a lot of them old men took me under their wing when it come to doing those things. I remember when I was 15 years old, we were coon hunting. We was out in the woods, and actually I turned 16 in December, the 14th, and this was in January. I just had turned 16. Well, in the state of North Carolina, when you're 16, you got to have a license. Up until then, you can hunt with any other licensed hunter. Well, we were coon hunting one night, and it was about midnight, and we was way out in the woods. We got back to the truck, and as soon as we was loading the dogs up, we seen lights come on. This game warden had been sitting there waiting on us. Well, I was with 3 older men that loved me like their own son, and and I loved them too. And I was just a young whippersnapper. One's name was Nub Sing Sing, and Roland Hicks, and Roy Latham. And I remember the game warden come out, checked everybody's license, and he looked at me and he asked me for mine. And I said, "Sir, I don't have any license." And he said, "When's your birthday?" And I was trying to think real fast, and I was telling a lie because I just had turned 16, didn't have no license. I'd been 16 a month. And I told him when I was born, and he said, "Well, you're supposed to have a license." I said, "I'm 15. Well, I got caught. And them old men got mad, and they told the story right there in front of him. I said, "Listen, sir," said, "this little feller, he's out here with us, and we'll go get him some license. Just don't give him a ticket." And he wrote me a ticket anyway. And that made them old men mad. But they took me that next morning and to the store in my little town, New Hope, North Carolina, at Lanier's Grocery, where they sold license, and walked me in there, and Roland Hicks, who is now dead, and Nub Sing Sing, who's now dead, Roy Latham still living, and they bought Roland paid for them, my first set of hunting license.
Wow.
And that had a major impact on me as a kid, and I want to have the same way or be the same impact. And that lit a fire in me to want to be a hunter because they took time in the woods,
right.
And I became woodwise at a young age because somebody took time with me. And I think one of the reasons why we may have so many issues with teenage kids today that may be hooked on social media, games, they don't want to get outside, they're not active, is because sometimes either the dad is not a hunter, a fisherman, or we're so busy trying to make a living that we don't make a life.
Yeah.
And if we're going to make a life, we're going to spend time with each other. And I'm thankful for my heritage that brought me up in the outdoors. And I've always said, you get a kid hooked on hunting and fishing, and they won't get hooked on nothing else because they won't have no money to buy no dope or drugs. They'll be broke from buying guns and turkey calls and clothes and all that stuff to hunt. And so in my area, there's not really anything publicly for the youth that I would love to see. And like I said, it may have to come through my burden in my church, which I would love to have the land. And my church would be great. I have a lot of great workers to work in that, to maintain that, to use it as a ministry like you have with By His Grace Outdoors. And I'm so thankful for that. And
and you sharing the memory. One thing that me and Kevin, our co-host, talked about when we first started Southern Legend Outdoors is we're not going to pre-talk about what we're going to talk about. That way it's genuine. And here you are sharing the memory we haven't even talked about. But that is exactly what you go back and listen to our first podcast. Kevin talks about his grandfather, how he started him, Mr. Hale, in this hunting, and then his father, Brother Ronnie Bearfield. I talk about my daddy with one good arm, but he quail hunted. Took me quail hunting, squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, deer hunting. And so we got memories. And this is the thing. Your memory as a child, as a kid, as a teenager, is men in your community.
One thing I think, and my granddad too, one thing I think with kids, we think that sometimes they're too young to do this or too young to do that. When I was 3 and 4 years old, I would stay all night with my grandpa. He died in 1996. He had Alzheimer's for years. But anyway, when I was 3 and 4 years old, I would stay all night with him. He was a big fox hunter, more than coon hunter. And I can remember at midnight, he would get me up, put me in the truck. I'd have my blanket, and we would leave and go to his buddy's house, wherever it was, and load the dogs up in the middle of the night, early in the morning, and go fox hunting. And there's been many times that I have woke up to the sound of my grandpa blowing his fox horn. He had made a horn out of old steer horn on the farm that had died or whatever, and he hollered, and I still got that foxhorn. It's in my office at church. I need to show it to you sometime. It's up on top of my bookshelf. And he would blow that. He'd scare me to death. And I'd hear my grandpa hollering at the dogs, and I thought he was trying to get them to load up. When he'd blow the horn, that meant come to the truck. But I can remember him hollering a lot when I was a kid, fox hunting. And he wasn't calling the dogs to the truck when he'd holler. The dogs knew when he blowed that horn, the race was over. It's kind of like a child of God. And when we talk about being a Christian, I've related this many times that one day the trumpet's going to sound. And when we hear that trumpet and we hear that horn, we know the race is over.
How about that?
But we hear a lot of hollering. And what Granddad was doing to them dogs back then, I was 3 or 4 years old, and he explained to me what he's doing. He was encouraging them. He was hollering at them dogs, letting them dogs know that he was there with them. And when they'd hear him yell, you could hear the whole pack start barking more, and the race would get stronger and louder. Kind of like a Christian.
Yeah.
When we've been in this camp meeting, and, the excitement, it gets us all involved and helps us run the race. And so getting a kid involved in hunting is never too early.
Right.
It's never too early. My mind goes back 3 to 4 years old. I can hear it right now, Mayor. I can hear my grandpa waking up in that truck by myself, scared to death, and Grandpa be leaned up against the truck on the back listening to them fox dogs run.
Yeah.
And so I think as parents, don't ever think your kid's too young. Get them out there. Get them in the woods, man. Let them see what God created. Yeah. Let them enjoy what God has done. I mean, it's wonderful.
Right.
And so I think that is something that a lot of, in our day, kids are missing out on, is the fun of the outdoors. And I think that would help solve a lot of the issues that some of our younger generation is facing, is because of the lack of being outside.
Well, and we all agree that sometimes being a mentor, being there's no doubt across our country there's men that take the privileges that they have and they share them with other kids, other men. Right. With By His Grace Outdoors, we bring preachers in. We bring handicap in. Right. We bring kids in. Yeah. But here's the bottom line of that. What you're talking about, like with your church, you do have a church that would get involved in that because of the men, the women that's in your church. I've been there. They're workers. One of the greatest workers I've ever witnessed is your dad, who's here with you on this trip, right. Brother Claudy. Yeah. And but you have a church like that. Yeah. And I know with By His Grace Outdoors, if it wasn't for my friends and my family, especially my youngest son Eli, Josh Spark, yes, all these guys that the Ramsey family, everybody that just jumps in and helps. But the bottom line is, and I said this the other day on our podcast, early we're so passionate about killing. Yes. In our hunting, when you're young. Right. The older I get, I'm more passionate about someone else killing. That's right. And that's what that's been the funnest years of my hunting, is giving back. And so we pray that may happen with y'all, and then if we can be a part of it, we'll be glad. We'd love to come. Your inaugural hunt, we'll come bring our cameras that would be awesome. And film. Awesome. So. One thing that Brother Jody does is he's a call builder, and we've got a special segment here before we get done. Brother Jody builds turkey calls, and he's done that for years. And if you go to Preacherman Custom Turkey Calls on Facebook or preachermangear.com, we're going to advertise for him, because if you're listening to this and you've never heard the name Jody Harrison, you need to meet this guy on Facebook. And here's the thing, these calls are beautiful. They're not only just calls, they're beautiful, they're handmade, and they are done by and they function, he said. So but also here in the latter days, Brother Jody's been making some grunt calls. And so I get here to the camp meeting, and he says, "Hey, I need you and Eli to come to my room." So we come down to the room. And I hadn't told him I was going to do a podcast with him. I wanted to wait till I saw him. So I have not opened my grunt call.
No.
And
That offended me when you laid it back down and I gave it to you.
well, I wanted to do it live. We're gonna open it live, and so I'm excited about seeing the grunt call for the first time. So I'm finna open up, brother. Now tell me the wood on it.
It's Ipe is the main body, and it's got snake wood ends on the end and a centerpiece. So it's Ipe, and it is adjustable on the end, and you can make a yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, but that's yours, and I wanted to give it to you as a gift. And that's the first one I'd done with that wood. And that Ipe is also known as Brazilian walnut, comes out of South America. And also the snake wood comes out of South America as well. It comes out of Suriname, South America also. So you have really got a legend from the South, because it comes from the South America.
Well, I've got a legend call from the legend call maker right here, man. So, Brother Jody, thank you for this call.
Thank you. You're
and,
welcome.
I will. This is my prayer for this call, that during our youth season, which is fixing to start early November in Mississippi, we've got kids coming in from several states, then as well as local kids. My prayer is that on one of these films that we'll get this call blowing and get a big buck to stop. Amen. And so take this call famous. We're going to take it to the next level. Man, what a beautiful call. Well, we'll close out this podcast. I want to ask Brother Jody a question, and then we'll close this out. I do appreciate your time. I appreciate Brother Jody got up early this morning just to be on the podcast before we had to leave. But tell us, since you've had the grandbaby, tell us the joy in your heart about passing your passions on to another generation. And what I mean by that is, I know you've already visioned. If you're like me, you already got it in your mind what it's going to be like that first hunt. When little man comes out and he's in his boots and his one pant leg is tucked in, one's tucked out or out, and he he's going to be, you're going to have to tote him half the way, and he's going to walk. So just the joy of that, it's amazing, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is.
It's amazing.
Nothing like it.
We've passed it to our kids. That's a generation, and now passing it to. So tell us a little bit. Southern Legend Outdoors, our whole thing is just passing down, being a legend. Tell us about your family, and tell us about this grand boy before we go.
Well, my wife is Melissa Harrison. I had two daughters. One's Lindsay Best. She's still at home. We call her Elby. And then Kaylin, she married Chris Ingold. And their son, my grandson's name is Anderson Ingold. Now, you talk about grandkids and my passion for it. I think it's seen in my preparation for that first hunt. The blinds that I've already purchased in the last year for him primarily, even though I'm using them. I got me two of the double bull blinds, the double wide double bulls where he's got plenty of room. Also being able to let him move, because I know first hunt he's going to move. And I want him to be able to do that, because when you take a kid, you can't just say, sit there and shut up.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be boring. So he needs to be able to move. And I'm not going to take him for a whole day. It's going to be about a 30, 45-minute hunt, and I'm going to have it planned to where I feel like something's going to be moving, turkey's going to be gobbling. And if he don't kill anything his first hunt, like a turkey, I at least want him to hear them good. You know, I'm going to take him out when I know it's going to be exciting and for a short period of time. Now, his guns. I've been collecting for years Thompson Center. I have a pro hunter. And every year what I do is I buy one barrel and a scope to go with that set. It's all stainless steel, fluted, camo. And now I've got 7 barrels with scopes. And what my plans are, when he graduates high school, if he keeps his head on right and does right, then I'm going to give him that set as a graduation gift by the time I get them all done. Now, somebody said, well, what are you going to do if he don't like hunting and fishing? He ain't got no choice. he ain't got no choice. His daddy loves hunting, Chris, which Chris is a lineman. They're down in North Florida right now, been gone for a good while.
Let's pray for
and
them.
pray for the linemen. Everywhere Michael was rough. But he ain't got no choice. He's going to love hunting, and because I'm going to do my best to get it to where he does love it and not force him, but have it to where he's chomping at the bit to go.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing too. So I'm excited. I can't wait till his first hunt, and probably in another year. He's 15 months now, so it's a little too early. I said a while ago, they're never too young. Sometimes you got to think 3 years old. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I can't wait.
Well, we appreciate your time, and Brother Jody is a unique individual. Just God, he's laughing, but all of us that know him, we talk about it to his face and behind his back. We talk about how God's blessed him, his personality, he's a friend, and we sure appreciate him being here. Now, you got to promise me that we'll do this again during turkey season.
Yeah.
And during turkey season, I'm going to save it to our turkey podcast. We're going to talk about how you got started in the call biz, building a turkey call, just some history of that. I won't talk about that.
If you'll promise me that I get to get in Estes Perkle's library.
Well, we'll have to talk. We'll have to talk to Brother Doug Horton. Brother Doug Horton, if you're listening to the podcast, matter of fact, Brother Jody has a call that he's going to present to Brother Doug Horton today at the conference, and there's a lot of ulterior motives behind that.
Yes,
I think
it shall be given unto you.
Yeah, I think he's wanting to get into the library. But anyway, well, Southern Legend Outdoors, you can catch us on Facebook. You can catch us on Twitter. Share it. Let your friends know. We just common folk talking about hunting, things we do every day. We love the outdoors. We love taking people in the outdoors. And God has blessed us with such great creation. And we praise him for his outdoors and allowing us to be a part of it. Until next time, this is Southern Legend Outdoors on the road, Alabama.
Wow, what a great podcast. Brother Jody said we get so busy trying to make a living that we neglect to make a life. And isn't that so true? Well, that's what this podcast is all about, reaching out to our men and society to raise a new generation that loves the outdoors, but ultimately loves Christ. Thank you, Brother Jody. What a tremendous testimony and ministry. We want to pray for Brother Jody, his church, and his ministry with turkey and other wildlife game calls. Thank you, Brother Jody and Brother Kerry, for taking the time to put this podcast together. Let us hear from you on our website at Southern Legend Outdoors or on our Facebook or Instagram. Again, thank you for joining in this podcast. From all of us here at Southern Legend Outdoors, have a great day.
Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. It's your time now. Be a legend.